farmers out there has had his hand spanked real bad.
Yeah, we've got a farmer from Waihi that's actually gone to jail for 4 years and 9 months for basically ripping off the tax system. He was running a business, a sort of organic butchery in a shop since 2007 and been employing staff, never filed a PAYE return, GST return or even an income tax return. His attitude was he wasn't subject to tax, so why did he have to do it?
Why would anybody think they weren't subject to tax?
Oh, he had some Maori heritage behind him, so he was basically arguing that because of that he didn't have to do the income tax because it wasn't fair.
So it was a cultural thing.
Yeah, the reality was he was subject to the tax and he had to do it. IRD rang him, tried to contact him, do all sorts of things with him. They even personally tried to deliver a letter to him, which he wouldn't accept. So then they just lost patience and went after him. But they estimated it was about $1.4 million worth of tax that he never actually paid up.
In a situation where people are bounced by the IRD, do they still have to pay that? Does that normally work?
Yeah, if they've got assets available, they'll try and take those as sort of to cover anything that's there. But most of these people by that point have either got rid of them or spent the money on other things or made them disappear.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment because people do make money disappear.
Yes.
Now the ACC rates have changed.
Yeah, from the 1st of April we've got some changes. So but everyone's been paying a residual levy as part of ACC, and that's going. That was from a legacy from accidents from pre-1999, and it was a way of funding them. Well, the government have said that's gone as from the 1st of April.
So what will that mean?
It means that for most people it's going to be slightly cheaper in terms of ACC, and especially for employees it means that not so much is going to be taken out of their pays. So it's a bit of a bonus for them there.
Yeah, we haven't heard much about that.
No, and then the other side of it is they're now going to make sure that your ACC as a farmer reflects the industry that you're in. So they're going to look at accidents that have happened and also the likelihood of accidents and judge your ACC rate on that. So fair to say that for most farmers they might be paying more, but for a lot of other businesses they reckon about 50% of them will actually pay less.
Yeah, and Kerry, please tell me they sorted this worm farming thing out, because I mean that was stupidity at the nth degree.
Yes, it still comes under agriculture, but there is a bit of discretion there.
I mean, that was a percentage, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was because worm farmers was a minute.
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah.
It's just totally out of perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they've done that change. They've also, for motor vehicles, there's a reduction in the average ACC on the motor vehicles. So when you go to register your vehicle, it should be cheaper in the future. So it's another sort of cost saving that'll flow through the bottom line for everyone, which is a positive.
It is positive. And mortgages?
Yeah, obviously with interest rates low, we've getting a lot of inquiries about what to do with their mortgages. People have got them sitting on floating or they're coming off fixed. And we get the question is, should we fix it? Should we stay on floating? We know the OCR rate by the Reserve Bank could probably change in the next few months. So looking at it, 1 to 2 years is probably your best option if you want to fix. But having said that, you actually need to go and talk to your bank and sort of work out what your risk profile is and what suits you the best.
And bankers do have some sort of an idea, I assume?
Oh yeah, they know roughly where things are going. They know what suits you. They can see your debt loading, for example. They can say you might split it up into 2 or 3 portions rather than have one huge loan and then split it over different time periods so you can take advantage of the rates. A few people are looking at the long term, so they want to get a certainty, so they're fixing it for 4 or 5 years now. The downside of this is actually going to cost a lot more. If the rates come down, you're going to be paying well above where you really need to be. So you need to think about the next couple of years is probably your best option. But the other thing is, when you see the interest rate, don't take that as the interest rate. The banks can negotiate and will negotiate. So you sort of go in and say, well, I see you're advertising 4.3, for example, but you might be at 4.1 in the end if you push them hard. It's a case of just asking the question and saying to them, what's your best rate? We know what your carded rate is, but they do have better.
So that's interesting, because it is competitive out there.
Oh yeah, definitely, and the banks are chasing hard. So it is a good idea to go and talk to a couple of banks as well. So talk to your bank you've got your debt with and go and find someone else and sort of play them off against each other. It works very well. It's amazing the deals you can get as a result.
So that's sort of like when you get these mortgage brokers, isn't it? Because they do that for you.
Yeah, definitely. Mortgage brokers are an option. And of course they cost you nothing because the banks pay the commission to them. So it's always an idea to get them on board and have a look for you. And they know exactly who's offering what deals, and it may be a bank that you haven't even thought of. So well worth...
I'm a great fan of brokers. Yeah. I mean, I've always put my insurance through an insurance broker for that reason.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We use brokers for all our sort of stuff. So, yeah, mortgages, insurance, that sort of thing. You definitely go and use a broker, make them do the hard work for you and get you the best deal. They know all the tricks of the trade and who's doing what.
And the other thing is, when it comes to insurance, for example, and I'm sorry, I am sort of digressing a bit, but you know, if you've got a broker that's got several $1 million with somebody, they're taken seriously when it comes to your claim.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and they know exactly how to get a claim through in the quickest way possible, which
And
is important. And
what's available.
Exactly.
I couldn't, after the earthquakes, I couldn't read all the small print. I had no idea what it all meant.
Yeah, you know, they know all the ins and outs, and so well worth using a broker. And because it costs you nothing as well, so it's always a good thing.
What's happening with the payroll situations?
Well, we're coming up to 1st of April, you know, the payroll year for employees ends. So we're just flagging people to think about how they're doing their payroll and whether they keep doing it the way they are. So some people are doing it in a book for 5 or 6 employees, whether there could actually be other options out there. They might want to outsource to, say, an accountant or an online provider, or even move to software. Also, just to think about all their obligations that they've got to meet. We've seen 1 or 2 instances where farmers forget to pay on the KiwiSaver employer contribution, or you know, an employee's opted to go into KiwiSaver and they've never actually worked it out. And then, of course, further down the track, the employees come and said, well, how come I'm not getting that, you know, as part of my my pay? And they go, oh, I didn't realise. But, you know, so just things like that to think about your payroll, tidy it up, especially your payroll records. You know, you've got to keep accurate records of holidays and sick leave and those sort of things, which are all the vulnerabilities that most people get tripped up on.
So if you've got an accountant, for example, your DAA, do you do the PAYE or do you get?
Yeah, no, we've got quite a few. We've probably got 30 or 40 farmers that we actually do the payrolls for. Even just, you know, we've got one where he's only got 1 staff member he pays fortnightly. He just hands it all to us and we take full responsibility for it. And that way, you know, he doesn't have to worry about it. He just sends the hours through and we look at after it and, yeah, make sure the staff member's paid, IRD have filed on time, etc.
So it makes it easy.